All right, so every time there's a new leak, it just gets us super hyped about Apple. As you guys know, Apple is gearing up to launch the iPhone 17 series pretty soon in September 2025. And like always, this series will have 4 models: the iPhone 17, the iPhone 17R, the iPhone 17 Pro, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max. As you can see, unlike previous years, we won't be getting a Plus model. It's being replaced by the iPhone 17R. I'm gonna start by going over the general stuff we can expect across all 4 devices, and then I'll try to focus a bit more on each one. The first big chunk of new info we have is about the iPhone 17R's display. For the first time ever, all 4 iPhone 17 models are expected to have 120 Hz refresh rate screens. So that feature won't be exclusive to the Pro and Pro Max models anymore. All 4 will apparently feature Super Retina XDR OLED panels with LTPO technology. Although one of them, the iPhone 17R, will be a bit special, but I'll save that for later. On all 4 iPhones, we're also expecting to see an improved 24-megapixel selfie camera. And for the first time, we're supposed to get an Apple-designed and manufactured Wi-Fi chip and modem, just like we saw with the iPhone 16's 5G modem, which was also an Apple-made chip called the C1. It's pretty likely that the price of these iPhones will go up slightly due to the current political climate, with all the tariff stuff going on. So it's a bit hard to predict, but Apple seems to be trying to get ahead of this instability by offering way more options and new features. For instance, all 4 of these iPhones are rumored to have 35-watt fast wireless charging, and they're expected to adopt the QA 2.2 or CI 2.2 wireless charging standard, which supports charges up to 50 watts. But according to sources and leaks, there's not much certainty they'll be able to use the full potential of that wireless charging. However, we can definitely expect much faster wireless charging via MagSafe. We're also expecting an improvement in thermal performance thanks to a new full vapor chamber, which would obviously help with overheating issues and also lead to better performance and battery life, since both of those are heavily impacted when the device overheats. Regarding the dynamic island, there were some rumors saying they'd shrink it a bit, and that by the iPhone 18, the trend would be to completely eliminate it. But it seems like that's not fully confirmed yet, and they might wait until the iPhone 18, as I said, to start reducing the dynamic island. Something similar seems to have happened with the famous scratch and reflection-resistant screen coating we thought we'd see on the iPhone 17. It looks like they're having some trouble implementing this coating on a large scale, so it might also be delayed until the iPhone 18. But what seems pretty confirmed, and I'll go over these latest iPhone 17R rumors, is that it would implement a new screen technology that would take energy efficiency to another level. It looks like Apple is planning to implement LTPO3 display technology, starting with the iPhone 17R. These LTPO3 panels would be a considerable improvement over the current OLED panels Apple uses, as they are much more energy efficient. The main benefit of these panels would be a much longer battery life when the iPhone works with the screen at low refresh rates, such as with the always-on display, which only shows the time and notifications and operates at 1 Hz. However, it seems these panels have a slower response, so Apple will have to balance performance and efficiency. Apple reportedly chose to debut this technology on iPhones with the iPhone 17R, because being a much thinner model, it has less space for the battery, so optimizing the battery's efficiency as much as possible will be crucial. The iPhone Pro models, on the other hand, having more space for the battery, don't need this technology as urgently and can wait to see how it performs on the iPhone 17R and implement it a bit later. But it's not entirely true that LTPO3 technology is completely new to Apple's displays, as we've already seen it in another of their products, the Apple Watch Series 10. As usual, the world's largest panel and display manufacturers, LG and Samsung, are battling it out to see who becomes the supplier for the next iPhone screens. However, this seems to be the biggest roadblock for the iPhone 17R to have this LTPO3 technology in its screens, as neither LG nor Samsung seem prepared today to manufacture this type of panel for the iPhone on a large scale. Although it might be that even if the contract is signed this year, 2025, for the manufacture of these panels, we won't effectively see them until next year's models or even the year after. As for the rest of the features we know, or at least that have been leaked and are rumors about the iPhone 17R, starting with its design, which is the most notable aspect of this phone, the most outstanding thing would be how thin it is, with estimates of about 5 millimeters, making it much thinner than current iPhones, and obviously the thinnest iPhone to date. As for the other details of its screen, it's expected to have a size of 6.6 inches and a 30% higher brightness than what we find in the iPhone 16 Pro. On this iPhone, we'd find a single 48 megapixel rear camera, which would be exactly the same as what we find today on the iPhone 16. It's expected to have the A19 chip as its processor and 12 gigabytes of RAM. It would be, along with the rest of the iPhone 17s, one of the first iPhones to use the Apple-designed and manufactured 5G modem, just like we found on the iPhone 16 with the C1 chip. But unlike its siblings, it probably won't have a physical SIM card slot, and we'd have to use it solely with an eSIM. This iPhone's battery capacity would be around 3,000 milliamp hours if current technologies are used, due to it being so thin. But if new battery technologies are used, it could increase a bit more and would have slightly better battery life. Although there are also rumors indicating that Apple would be preparing to launch a MagSafe case with an integrated external battery to extend this iPhone's battery life, precisely because of its low battery life. But then it doesn't make much sense to launch such a thin iPhone just to have to put a case on it. So maybe it's just another accessory they want to sell, and the logical thing would be for us to have a bit more battery. And I remind you that if you want to stay up to date with the latest news and updates from Apple and its devices, you need to visit 2applemundo.com, because every day you'll find the latest news. And you also need to follow me on all of 2applemundo's social networks, because every day we publish a lot of content about the brand and all its news. But let's continue with the iPhone 17s, and if we now move on to the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max, which would be the big stars of this launch, let's review their main features. The screens of these two models would be 6.3 inches for the Pro model and 6.9 for the Pro Max model. Both, as I said before, will have 120 Hz technology, but pay attention, only they would have the ability to lower their screen refresh rate to up to 1 Hz, which is still a rumor, it's not known. It seems pretty confirmed that all 4 models will have 120 Hz. It seems that both the chassis and the edges would change material once again. After going through stainless steel and titanium in the latest models, we would now move to aluminum, and the back part seems that it would be made partly of this aluminum material and partly of glass to favor wireless charging. The rear camera module will also change, similar to what we saw before with the iPhone 17R, being a horizontal bar, but maintaining the triangular arrangement of the 3 cameras, but moving both the LiDAR sensor and the microphone and flash to the right end of this bar.
We also have rumors that the main camera of this iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max would feature a mechanical variable aperture system that would allow controlling the amount of light that reaches the lens, and, therefore, modify the depth of field or the blur we have in our photos. It is also rumored that we would improve the telephoto sensor, the zoom lens, which would go from 12 to 48 megapixels, to be equivalent to what we find in both the main camera and the wide-angle camera. And this telephoto lens would offer, in principle, a 3.5 times optical zoom and a 5 times sensor crop zoom, so we could take photos with these 2 zooms without losing any quality. And from there, use digital zoom to gain much more zoom, but then, yes, losing quality. A new feature we'd find on the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max would be the ability to record dual video, to simultaneously record with the rear camera and with the selfie camera. Additionally, a feature that they were supposedly testing with the iPhone 16 Pro, but have not yet implemented, would be 8K video recording, which we would finally see implemented with the iPhone 17 Pro. Just as we saw when reviewing the iPhone 17R, these iPhones would also feature 12 gigabytes of RAM, up from the 8 gigabytes we currently find, which would help them, for example, with Apple Intelligence processing. And a feature that I'm looking forward to coming to iPhones seems like it will finally debut with these Pro models, which would be reverse wireless charging. In principle, it would be at a speed of 7.5 watts. And this would allow us, for example, to place our AirPods on the back of our iPhone so that they charge using our iPhone's battery. And finally, let's finish by reviewing the base iPhone 17, the normal and common model, which is not expected to have as many changes as its bigger siblings. Its screen is expected to be 6.3 inches and have smaller bezels, matching what we see, for example, on the iPhone 16 Pro. It will continue to have 2 cameras on the back and will maintain the current design we see on the iPhone 16. It will not mount that kind of horizontal bar that we would see on the iPhone 17R and Pro. It is also expected to mount the A19 chip as its processor, although there are some rumors that indicate that it would keep the A18 chip from the current iPhone 16s, which is a bit strange. We've had a few years where the chip of the normal line was different from the Pro line, but lately they had been betting on having the same name and just putting the Pro surname on the processor of the Pro models, which made it much simpler
And in my opinion, I think that's what we'll see with the iPhone 17s as well. That both the normal iPhone 17 and the 17R have an A19 chip, and the Pro and Pro Max models have an A19 Pro chip, which is a bit more powerful. The improvement that this iPhone 17 seems to be missing out on would be the increase to 12 gigs of RAM that I mentioned before. It seems that this model will stick with 8 gigs, which, well, it's the base model. It was to be expected. And also, in the current models, we still have 8 gigs of RAM. So, well, it shouldn't be a problem when managing both multitasking and, for example, Apple Intelligence tools. Only that in the Pro models and in the Air model, it will be notably better. So that's all the new information we have about the upcoming base iPhone 17, which seems like it will be pretty continuous. The iPhone 17R, which really breaks the mold and is a new device focused mainly on design. And finally, the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max, which not only have some design changes, but also focus a lot on performance and some key hardware features. So I hope you liked this video, found it useful and interesting. If so, leave a like. And I also remind you to subscribe and activate notifications so you don't miss any videos from the channel. Like, for example, this video that I leave for you here, which I'm sure you'll also like a lot because they are related to this one and are specifically recommended for you. So I hope that's the case, that you like it a lot, and that we'll see you in the next video. Bye!